The Single Tracks podcast is brought to you by TPC, the Pros Closet. Spring is the perfect time to upgrade, and TPC has an industry-leading selection of new and certified pre-owned bikes, plus frames, wheels, and accessories. Each certified pre-owned bike is inspected, tested, and serviced, and every bike includes 30-day returns. Visit tpc.bike/singletracks and enter code singletracks40 to save $40 on every order over $200. That's the Pros Closet at tpc.bike/singletracks, and look for the link and coupon code in the show notes. Hey everybody, welcome to the Single Tracks podcast. My name is Jeff, and today my guest is Ernie Rodriguez. Ernie is the president of MORE, the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts. MORE has been around since 1992, and the group maintains and advocates for trails in Maryland, Virginia, and the Washington, D.C. area. Thanks for joining me, Ernie.
Thank you. I appreciate being on.
So tell us, why and how did MORE get its start?
So before I do that, can I give you our motto? Because I liked your introduction.
Sure.
But really, our motto says it all. It's riding bikes and building trails since 1992. Now, you're asking about how we started?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because I found it the other day. I was looking through our communications folder and found an ad where we had put an ad in Dirt Rad magazine asking for like-minded people to ride mountain bikes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we definitely started a long time ago. And
was it like a social club? I mean, were people looking just for people to ride with, or that seems like kind of an unusual start?
It was loosely organized, and it's kind of not funny, haha, but interesting. One of the very first places we started to ride was Loch Raven, north of Baltimore.
Okay.
That is still our primary advocacy challenge today.
Wow.
Is trying to get legal mountain biking on all but one trail there. So yes, it was more social than anything, in that people just wanted to ride their bikes and wanted to find out what this thing was in the dirt, in the woods, as opposed to on the roads.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder what the response was like to that ad too. And how did people even respond? There wasn't like a website they could go to or anything. I guess you would like mail in, or people meet at a certain spot. Like it's hard to imagine.
Well, there was a phone number.
Okay.
And the name, and I don't know enough history. I don't know if Brian Junkins was actually the president when he posted the ad, or if it was right before he became president.
Okay.
But it had a phone number and a name, and they did say, okay, meet at Wakefield parking lot, meet at, Loch Raven, meet at, different places.
Cool. Yeah. So MORE obviously has been around for a long time. I guess you guys just celebrated 30 years, if my math is right. 31 years now. We're
our 31st year, and yes, we had a huge gala for 30 years. So yes.
Awesome. So tell us, how is MORE organized?
So the IRS side of things is we're a nonprofit. We're, a volunteer organization, check the box advocacy, check the box corporate. Now, I think what you're really asking is, how is the organization structured?
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of MORE. MORE is organized with ride leaders and trail liaisons, and they're the ones that have the relationships with the parks. They're the ones that are the visionaries. They're the ones that we support and enable. Basically, they dream it up. They vision the trail, and we support and enable. I like to say, integrate and celebrate their success, because, of course, we do it through training, we do it through advocacy, we do it through meetings, we do it through fundraising, we do it through grant applications, just any number of resources that the organization itself can bring in to support what we think is our most critical asset, which is our volunteers, because they're the ones that dig in the dirt.
Right.
They're the ones that invite their friends. They're the ones that really make it a welcoming and inclusive club where people feel comfortable. It's like, hey, I don't know how to ride. Do you have a group for me? It's like, yeah, we have a casual group. It's like, hey, I just moved here from, X out west, and I'm used to this. Can I get that? It's like, oh, yeah. Join this group. We'll take you there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like the group is set up to perform a number of functions, advocacy and also the social side. And I understand that MORE helps support a number of different trails in the area. And you mentioned those trail liaisons. How many trail liaisons are a part of MORE?
So it's I was going to say over 90. So it's about 100 trail liaisons. But what we have is we discovered probably about 15 years ago, instead of having one liaison per park, some parks have teams and they have co-liaisons, because that makes the difficult work of organizing much easier because you have different people. Some will do social media, some will do fundraising, some will organize rides, someone will organize what we call a s'mores ride, which is for kids. Some will do women only rides, some will dig in the dirt. Some will have captains that dig in the dirt by teams or build structures. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there ever like meetings where everybody comes together? I mean, that sounds like a huge group, or is it more kind of decentralized than that?
Well, it's both centralized and decentralized. And what I mean by that is annually we have our trail liaison meeting. And that's where we invite everybody to come together. So yes, automatically it becomes social, because it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you. And hey, let's go ride this, or let's do that. Or it's, hey, I'm going to invite you my trail work day, because we're going to be working on the proper radius for a turn on this type of bank or this kind of terrain. So yes, we have annual training for our liaisons. We're now moving towards that for our ride leaders. Our ride leaders were mostly by email and communications, phone calls, that kind of stuff. But we're seeing the need for that side of the equation as well.
Interesting. So altogether, how many miles of single track trails does MORE support? So I get criticized because I will tell you the exact number is 869 miles of trails in 62 parks in the district, Maryland, and Virginia. Wow. That's a ton. And so how many individuals then belong to MORE in terms of like your paying supporters, dues paying members?
So we have just a little over 2,000 dues paying members right now. Which, is pretty good, but really it's not what it should be. It should be a lot higher than that. Yeah.
Do you think how many mountain bikers would you guess kind of live in your area and frequent the trails that MORE supports?
I'm just going to guess. There's probably about a little over 2 million people in the general area. Of that, I'm guessing there's at least 20,000 unique riders. Now, there's probably a double or triple that number that own bicycles, but I'm talking about unique riders who visit the park on a weekly basis. And of course, that's kind of pitiful, because then 10% of that is our 2,000 members, and any given event, you can roughly get 10% of the membership. And it's not going to be the members necessarily that show up, but about 10% of members and guests that will show up to some type of event.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And that number, I'm guessing you're not too far off. And I would guess there's probably more than 20,000, right? So if there's 2 million people, that's like 1% of the people that live in the area. And I think we've seen studies like nationally that show around 3% of people mountain bike at least once a year. So it could be 20, it could be 60,000, but still 2,000 paying members seems like a drop in the bucket compared to the number of actual riders.
Yeah, but we're grateful for those members, because really they're motivated and they're doing it because they want to. There is no formula that says you have to do this. And we pride ourselves in saying, hey, almost everything we do is free. So please just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great attitude to have for sure. And hopefully people appreciate that, and then they'll want to become involved and not feel sort of obligated or doing it out of guilt, for sure. So tell us, how did you become the president of MORE?
Very simply, I was asked. But really,
you're voluntold.
Well, no, not actually. Just a gentle ask.
Gentle ask. Okay.
Before that gentle ask, I was asked to be on the board, and I served as the advocacy director for Virginia. And before that, I had been writing, and we termed it the Gear Wars, because I used to play Ultimate Frisbee, and a bunch of friends of ours, we all decided, because one of our members said, hey, let's go for a bike ride. Of course, we had no clue what that was. So we started riding our bikes, and then started buying gear, and then started visiting different trail systems. And then, one thing led to another. So we got to explore a lot of the trails in the area. Yeah. And then, after a while, after a few years, I decided, what, it's time for me to get back. Yeah. So the opportunity came up for advocacy director. I served in that position for a year. After that, our vice president decided they were not going to run for president. So I was asked, would you consider this? And I did. And this is 10 years. Wow. And is that like a volunteer position? Absolutely. Everybody's volunteered that serves on the board. Okay, cool. And so does this kind of fit with what you've done professionally or other experience you've had outside of biking? Or is this kind of like a new thing for you? It was a new thing for me. Yeah, I had been in management. I mean, I've done pretty much every type of job there is to do. And no, this is a volunteer mechanism. And of course, I had volunteered over the years, with kids in school and games and, sports and stuff like that. But nothing like this. Yeah. It seems like a big job. Is it a big time commitment for you? It is, but it's a joy. I mean, you're not asking this question, but I'm going to go ahead and volunteer it. Is, what I have found over the years is when I ask people to do something, they will do it, but you may not get the best effort. When somebody comes to you and says, I want to do something, then you absolutely get the best effort. Plus, you get more than you asked for. They wind up being fantastic. Yeah. So it's creating that culture of having people feel comfortable enough to approach you and say things like, I have an idea, or I would like to help, or, I think we can move forward in this direction. And then being receptive to people to volunteer and to, learn and grow. Yeah, that's great advice for definitely for managing an advocacy group, but then also just life in general. I think that's so true. So we mentioned sort of the dues paying members that are a part of MORE that help support MORE. How else is MORE funded? Well, I learned early on, and one of the prior directors just flat out told me, he's like, hey, it's about revenue diversification. Don't think that we have to go down one path to get funded. It's not about grants. It's not about the membership. It's not about, and it's like, wow, that's interesting, Kevin. And, so today we're funded minimally by membership because really that is the commitment to the organization. We're funded largely by individual donations, by grants, by programs and apps like Love Trails, Trail Karma, direct project contributions. We found that, you publish something on our webpage that says, look, this week we're investing over $20,000 in Wakefield for repairing the trails that have lasted about 20 years, but they're cut. Oh, wow. They're dug out. They need attention. And we've done fundraising, and we continue to do fundraising, and we hired a professional to get to where we couldn't get to with volunteers. Because believe me, if you can get a volunteer to do it, it's so much better because you generate a stakeholder and ownership for that trail. So paid is not our first step, and it's not our last step, but it does happen. And then we have employer matching. We have way too little corporate or foundational donations, and like many other organizations, we do have events like Moco Epic. Okay. And I don't know if you want to know about Moco Epic, but it's our annual fundraiser. Yeah. Tell us about it. So Moco Epic is our leader in the district, in the DC area is Montgomery County. I like to say that we shamed them into not only hiring trail planners, but actually hiring staff and trail builders. But Montgomery County was one of the first ones to adopt that methodology and to have staff. So there's hundreds of miles within Montgomery County, but we put together an annual event with 5 different routes, anywhere from 15 to 70 miles. And we, those are epic rides with aid stations. And we do it as our annual fundraiser. And we have a huge party afterwards. And it's celebration of trails. And we tell people up front, this is a little expensive, but all the funds go right back into the trails.
Yeah, that's great. That's sounds like a great opportunity for people to have fun and see the trails and appreciate them, and then also give back to them. And you also mentioned Love Trails. I want to add to that plug. I use Love Trails, and we did a podcast with Ari, one of the founders of Love Trails, and Jeremiah Bishop. Who I guess Jeremiah Bishop, he's kind of in your area up there. But yeah, I use Love Trails, and I almost sort of forget about it. And then I go ride somewhere and I get an email that says like, hey, you rode 10 miles on, let's say, MORE trails. And then you just click a button to approve your donation. I've set mine up to be like 25 cents a mile, which maybe it should be a little higher, but still it's something. And it's like, it feels like, you're giving back, you're paying for what you use. I was out in Arkansas, last week, and ended up giving money to all the trails that I rode there, and super easy. So I definitely encourage people to sign up for that so they can give back to their trails.
Love Trails and Trail Karma, to me, that is a perfect relationship, because they do it because they're socially responsible. Because, as president, I get 10, 20 emails a day is, let us sell you this, let us do that for you, let us fundraise for you, and they all want a piece of the pie. But these applications are actually free to the local club, and they support the local club. So yes, I do appreciate them.
Yeah. We just need to get more people using them. I'm sure it's not a huge revenue driver for MORE, but the more people that use it. And what I love about it too is you don't have to be local to where you're riding, because a lot of us travel to ride. We ride different trails all the time, and this is a way, to connect with those people and the volunteers that are making those experiences happen. And so, I love trails.
Cool.
So let's talk about IMBA. So what's the relationship between MORE and IMBA?
So we are a chapter of IMBA, and of course, we're told we're a high-functioning chapter. So what does high-functioning mean?
Sounds good. Yeah.
But, for us, my membership tells me best. And what high-functioning means to us is IMBA made us who we are. They provided the training. They gave us the support when we were first starting and we didn't know anything. And, of course, we love to ride the bike. And then we don't realize it's like, wow, somebody actually had to build this.
Right.
Somebody actually had to go to a meeting. Somebody actually had to make this legal. We have to fit within the constraints of society. And so those things were all taught by IMBA. Of course, their, trail crew that came out and, showed us how to dig, and, the classes that they have where you can learn to be a trail builder, and, you can participate with other organizations. So that's what I mean by, a high functioning organization who owes at least some of their success to IMBA. And now we're in a position to where we can encourage others to be part of IMBA and to give back to IMBA and support that big umbrella, if you will.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about, you mentioned some of the more popular trails that MORE supports. Which ones are the ones maybe people have heard about that aren't from the area? Or if someone's visiting the mid-Atlantic states, like where should they ride?
Well, I would turn that question around just a little bit about experience. Because I think that has something to do with it. It's like, what kind of experience do you want to have? And what trail motivates you to share your experience or ask a question like, wow, who built this? What can I do to help support this trail? Or how can I be part of this? So It depends on what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And if you want to introduce somebody, a friend mm-hmm. that you don't want to scare away, that it's like you want them to come back.
Yeah.
you might want to take them to, Rosariville or Jug Bay or Laurel Hill or Fort DuPont. That's our mm-hmm. only trail system in the DC area. Mm. I mean, in DC proper.
Okay.
If you want something more intermediate, or developmental, you might want to take them to Schaefer Farms or Bacon Ridge or Wakefield, Accotink, Locust Shade, or Lake Fairfax. If you wanted something more challenging, somebody who's bragging about coming from, the mountain biking mecca of the world, you might want to take them to the Frederick Watershed, to Patapsco, to GW Forest, to Fountainhead, or conversely, everyone's seen the videos is I Only Ride Park, so you might want to go to Rockburn, to South Germantown Bike Park, or to Lake Fairfax, or even Bacon Ridge.
Okay, cool.
But really, it's we have something for everybody, and it depends on your mood and your skill level. And I'm really doing a disservice to all the other trail systems. But, if you ask me personally, which is your favorite, I have to say it's probably the Frederick Watershed.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely one I've heard of. And Schaefer Farms, mm-hmm. As well, has been around a long time. People have been riding there for many, many years. And yeah, I mean, it seems like that area, you've got a real diversity of terrain. I mean, you've got sort of more rolling, flat-ish areas, and then you've also got big mountains that kind of surround the area. So a lot of diversity. And in terms of, like, you mentioned some of those advanced trails, what are like some of the technical features that people are going to see? Is it rocky? Is it rooty? Like, what is it that makes the trails challenging?
Okay, so you didn't ask me this way, but I'm going to phrase it this way. What are the trails that you don't ride?
Yeah.
So we have some really gnarly downhill trails. I mean, they have the Shed Duro event over at the Watershed. Mm-hmm. There's Cakapon that we were associated with. It's not our territory, but those are fantastic trails. Of course, Patapsco. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And when I first started riding there, it was like, whoa, I'm not so sure I can ride this. And, they've gotten even better since. So yes, we do have flowy trails that are nice and gentle. We do have rooty trails that get slippery. We have rocky trails that are an absolute challenge. We have drops and, just all kinds of stuff. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. It depends on what kind of insurance you have.
Right. That makes sense. And I imagine some of the more popular trail systems are going to be the ones that are closer to sort of the large population centers. So maybe the ones around DC, like as you kind of get farther out, like are the trails less crowded or what's kind of where do people like to ride?
So it's kind of funny because, just Thursday and last Tuesday, I was out at Wakefield because we have a standing night ride. Mm-hmm. And the number of people that come from out of state or don't mind driving and come from DC. Now, I'm going to plug this. We do tout that we have metro accessible trails at Lake Fairfax. Oh. So you can hop on the metro, go out to, Wheelie Avenue, pedal across the road, and there you go. You're in Lake Fairfax Park.
Wow. How long is that train ride?
I would say probably about 30 minutes. Well, it depends on where you're starting from. I mean, if you're starting from deep in Maryland, it's going to be obviously longer. But, from DC itself, probably about 30 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But, getting back to your question, where do most people ride? What we're finding is most people like to ride locally during the week. And then on weekends, a lot of people travel. A lot of people will travel to destinations.
Right.
So, and what makes a destination trail? A destination trail, I think it comes right back to that earlier question is what experience are you looking for? So all week long, you've been yearning for these gravity trails. So as soon as, Saturday comes around, it's like you're out the door, you're going to that gravity trail. And lo and behold, there's a bunch of your friends doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So I want to talk about some of the trail projects that you're the most proud to have helped support, either you personally or MORE. Like, what are some of the standout projects, the unique ones that have been accomplished over the last several years?
So I'm going to start, kind of general, because I mentioned Cake Upon earlier. Mm-hmm. We kind of extended our umbrella to them to just get them started, and they have just taken off. They do their own thing, their own club. But we were so happy just to have a tiny little part of that. The other one is, Kent Island, Terrapin Nature Center. Again, they were Delaware trail spinners. And we said, yeah, we'll help you. And then they came back and said, well, can we be part of you instead? And it's like, whoa, hold on. So we talked to Delaware trail spinners. They're like, yeah, please go ahead. And so we were helpful in building that trail. There's some others, obviously, Patapsco. I wish I could say Loch Raven, but we're not there yet. But really, for me, the answer lies in it's enabling that vision from our trail liaison. So the trails that I'm most proud of are where our liaisons, for example, Fountainhead, our liaison, put together grants. He put together a trail plan. It's funny because I went back to REI a couple of years ago and I said, you know what I found in my paperwork? I found the original $1,500 grant that you gave us in 1994 to build the first little section of trail in Fountainhead. And here we are, $480,000 later with over 220 tons of rock donated. And we have this awesome trail system that the liaison envisioned, walked, consulted with trail builders, and built. And it's a world-class trail system. But the same could be said for the Frederick watershed. It's like for 10 years, we advocated for trails in the Frederick watershed because we only had one trail, the Blue Trail. All of the trails were illegal. Well, we proved our worth. We built our brand. We were able to get the city to finally say, wait a minute, DNR, this is our land. We're going to allow this because they have demonstrated that they will build natural surface, sustainable, multi-use public trails. So we're going to address erosion and sedimentation. We're going to bring people to show them what we're trying to protect. And we thought we were going to sign a 1-year stewardship agreement. We signed a 15-year stewardship agreement. And what does that mean? It means that we will care for those trails. Now, we don't own them and we don't own the product, but we recruit volunteers to help build and to help maintain. So those are the type of trail systems that I'm most proud of, is where our visionaries, our liaisons, like, Mike Klasmeyer over at Bacon Ridge, he has a dream, if you will, and he pulls people in and he secures funding and he deals with the county and he builds it. And he says, county, this is all yours.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah. So it sounds like you have a great relationship with the DNR at Fountainhead, but then it also sounds like there's some challenges at places like Loch Raven. What's sort of the general tone in terms of shared use trails within your region? Does it kind of vary by location and sort of neighborhood by neighborhood, or is there like some way to kind of generalize it?
I'm going to deviate just a little bit because there's a lot in there. And you might have to remind me of the question, but one of the points that I want to make is that we, as volunteers, as mountain bikers, when we approach a land manager, we have to keep in mind that we're adding to their plate. We're adding workload. So we can't ignore the fact that when we say, hey, I want a trail here, it's like, oh my God, here's another group.
It's like more work for me. Yeah.
They want us to jump through hoops, do the environmental studies, make sure that it's legal, and they want money too. And see, that's where we have a strong suit is we're able to approach a land manager and say, We want to work with you. We want to help meet your vision and your mission for this park. We want to meet the needs of the user communities, not just mountain bikers.
Right.
Because we do believe in, you were saying, shared use. So we believe that, bird watchers, hikers, dog walkers, runners, equestrians, everybody should have access to trails. Now, it brings up an important educational issue for us, is because we have to educate our members and anyone that we have influence over. Is like, hey, that horse has a brain. Be careful, dismount, make some noise, ask them what they want you to do. But getting back to the workload issue is, we are bringing workload to that land manager. So we need to be respectful.
Right.
Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes they don't have staff. And I already gave you that example of Montgomery County where, over the years, they added a trails planner or a trail manager. And some counties and some city governments or even at the federal level, they have programming that's mandated by Congress, but it doesn't list anything about mountain bikes. So when we come to them, they go, oh my God, I don't need that. I already have a whole plate.
Yeah.
So we have to be cognizant of that and try to work within their system. And unfortunately, sometimes that takes a long time.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like you're primarily focused on the land manager because, in a lot of ways, they're kind of the final decision maker or one of the key ones. And maybe it's less so about what some neighbors are saying or kind of the community. It really comes back to what that land manager is willing and able to do in terms of getting trail access.
Willing and able to support, because you're absolutely right. There is a lot of NIMBYism. In other words, not in my backyard.
Right.
And until they start seeing their home values go up. And then it's like, oh, yeah, no,
Right.
I asked for this trail. It's like, okay.
Yeah, everybody likes money. Yeah.
But it also has to do with what the specific ask is and what we're willing to do to support that ask. And funding is a major one because one of the things that you also have to consider is this in a long-term comprehensive plan? Some of these parks, they were designated to have a trail, but the land manager may not have the funds to make that happen. So when you can come in and say, can we build this trail and we'll do some fundraising and we'll recruit volunteers to do it. And if the terrain is so difficult that we can't get volunteers to do it because we don't have, A, the capacity or B, the skills, then we'll hire a professional and it might take us a little longer, but we'll apply for grants. So see, all those things come into play and that helps you build your reputation and it helps build that success down the road.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. And then I think that's helpful to a lot of people all over the country that are trying to get trail access and wishing that they had better access or things like that. I think that's a really good way to approach it.
It's also an outlet because last year, we did some major work over at Wakefield. And what was extremely satisfying to me was two of the people actually that were brought in for their expertise in building jumps were part of our original s'mores team, which is the small riders. Yeah. They've gone off to college. They've done the racing circuit. They've done all kinds of stuff. And the professional trail builder had hired a couple of them to say, hey, do this for me. So it's a community and we're very happy to say that we have professional trail builders that are extremely qualified in the area. And there's progression that, if this is the outdoor recreation aspect of that you want to be involved in your career, there's opportunities.
Yeah. And the s'mores program in particular, it seems like it seems very strategic in terms of like kids are kind of a Trojan horse sometimes, right? Like nobody can say no to kids. We want trails for kids. We want places for them to ride. And so, it seems like that helps grease the wheels in a lot of cases as well.
Absolutely. Specifically when we were over at the Capitol, we were doing some advocacy work and, after we were just about done for the day. And so I asked Todd Keller, it's like, okay, we met all the nice people. What about the ones that don't like us? You know, he's like, well, let's give it a try. Here, let's walk halls. Yeah. And, you know, we ran into one and, you know, he's like, hi, you know, this, that, the other. And then one of the kids that we had along with us walks up, reaches out his hand. He just reaches out, starts smiling, starts talking to him. And the kids start saying, you know, I want a place to ride my bike. I feel good when I'm in the woods. It gives me something to do. And we all just sit back and think, we couldn't get an audience. We couldn't get a sentence in. And here this kid did all the advocacy work. So there's a lot to be said about, you know, letting the kids tell the story. But the building block for the kids telling the story is giving them that experience.
Right. So
when we say get every kid on a bike, they don't have to like it. You know, just give them the experience once. And if they like it, fine. If they don't like it, fine. You know, let them do what they want to do. But we feel like we should at least give them the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Well, what does the current discussion around e-bike trail access look like for MORE? I know you support trails in a lot of different areas. You probably have a lot of different land managers. What's kind of the approach in terms of e-bike access?
Well, you know, first of all, I feel like I left a little crumb on the table on that last question. So I'm going to go back.
Sure. Let's circle back.
I'm going to go back and say, you know, we realize that we're not the end all. There's organizations that we partner with. You know, there's Trails for Youth, there's Gearing Up, there's Phoenix Bikes, there's all, you know, Bikes for Kids. There's all these organizations that do so much better at delivering kids programming. So from the MORE side, s'mores is but a member benefit. From the community outreach, education, engagement, and development, we partner with other organizations that are better equipped to do a much better job than we can do at reaching kids and helping them grow. And it's so nice to, you know, to go to events and to see those groups represented.
Yeah. That's a good reminder that, you know, as mountain bikers, we think of, you know, I tend to think first of my mountain bike advocacy organization, the folks who are really driving a lot of the like trail access and building and maintenance and things. But yeah, I mean, in every community, there's a huge kind of ecosystem of all these groups that are supporting biking. And especially for youth, I mean, you've got NICA in a lot of communities. You've got these groups that are working to get bikes for kids who maybe don't have access to them. And so, yeah, that's a great reminder that we should support those groups and also appreciate what they do as well. So let's talk about e-bikes.
Yes, I was going to say, I'm not sidestepping the issue. The first thing about e-bikes is I don't get as many questions as I used to get. I mean, I used to get bombarded. And I got to be perfectly honest with you. I was not so much in favor of e-bikes when they first came out. I have softened personally. And the reasons I think are pretty universal. I have seen many of my friends who are able to keep riding. One story I like to tell, and it's a bike shop owner. And, you know, this one of the young men who got hired with that trail building company, he has a younger sister. And she just would not ride a bike. She just, you know, mom loved it, dad loved it, brother loved it, everybody loved it. And she just really had no interest. Well, mom got her an e-bike and she's like, oh, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
Now, in full disclosure, she's quit riding. You know, she wants to do other things. But,
worked for a season. Yeah.
Yeah, but she was able to have that experience. So to me, that was very interesting. That's what it took for somebody to enjoy the experience, to decide if they want it or if they don't want it. And in this case, she didn't want it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is we have to be completely honest. our opinion really doesn't matter. This is a land manager decision.
Right. Comes back to the land manager.
The land manager decides. And, I just have to say I was disappointed because early on, I was asked to participate and I wrote I was asked, write a white paper, do this, do that, look at the studies. And then they came back and they said, okay, thank you so much. Here's our policy. And it's like, wow, it's nothing that I had. And he's like, yeah, well, we decided to go with the experts out of Europe. And then in a follow-up conversation, what I learned was that group of land managers finally came back and said, there is no way, we have no staff that is able to enforce this. Yeah. So we have to come up with a guideline that is minimally invasive, yet accepted, that people will follow, so that we don't have to spend a lot of resources trying to police this. And it's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to what you were saying earlier about how these land managers, they already don't have enough time to do the things they need to do or the resources. And so, yeah, a lot of times they're looking for the path of least resistance. And on e-bikes, yeah, that's always a question. How are you going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce it? Well, I mean, you're not. Like there's not enough people to enforce things already. And so, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and then to further back that up, I really appreciate that there's been studies that show that e-bikes do no more and no less damage than regular bikes or than other trail users. So I think that's the important, because really that plays into the bigger picture. And for me, the bigger picture is you have to provide experiences that bring people to the areas that you want to protect and that you want to steward for future generations. And this is but one method to be able to do that. And, you have my full support. If you can bring a kid out there and show them, look at this natural resource, and this is why we want to protect it. And then you grow a future steward, because face it, I'm not going to be president for much longer, and somebody else needs to take over, and they need to have an appreciation for our natural surroundings.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Are you seeing a lot of your members becoming e-bikers? Like, is there a demand, I guess, for more e-bike access within the area?
I'm not so sure that I'm qualified, and I struggle with that word, because you really can't tell what an e-bike is unless you're up close and personal, or unless somebody's just like flying past you. and most e-bikers that I see, and yes, there are e-bikes in groups, and usually it's, and I can't give you a 1 in 10 or 1 in 5, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
it's hard.
But every group does have, I say every, not a lot of groups have e-bikes. And I'm noticing, again, the bigger thing, which is people are able to ride with their friends. People that now have a pacemaker, that have had surgery, that are getting older. They're able to continue to socialize. And the bike is a vehicle for social behavior. So I'm not so sure that I can answer the demand question. Maybe it's a need question. Yeah.
You must not read social media comments, because I feel like that's always a thing that people are saying. We need more e-bike access. I ride e-bikes. Why can't I ride my bike here? Which is a good thing. I try not to read social media comments either. But you make a good point that we're seeing it like integrated more into groups, for example. And there's not this, I guess there was this fear that there were going to be like these gangs of e-bikers that, would show up at trails and terrorize all the other users. But yeah, I mean, so far, I don't think that's happening. And yeah, sounds like it's probably not.
No, we occasionally, have a motorcycle sighting, or evidence of motorcycle damage, or the one wheelers at the jump line.
The one wheelers,
and we embrace them too. But But the thing is, if you're going to damage a lip on a jump, it's like, okay, you should know better than this, because somebody actually worked very hard to create that lip to launch you into this jump. So please don't destroy it. Right.
Yeah. As always, it comes down to behavior and education. And yeah, I mean, that's why groups like MORE exist. And it sounds like you all do a good job of that in a number of different ways in terms of outreach. So tell us, what's the biggest constraint that MORE faces in carrying out and growing your mission?
I would have to say the tried and true answer, which is communications. Because, I think I've gone over that experience draws people. And if you can share that experience, you can connect with people. If you can connect with people, then you can show some value or some connectivity or some reason to either become part of or to share. Because becoming part of may be a bridge too far. It's like, no, I just want to ride my bike. I don't care about anybody else. It's just about me today. And we need to be respectful of that and say, enjoy your ride.
Yeah.
But if we were, early on, you asked a question about, where's the best place to ride? And if that experience has you asking questions as to who built this, how can I be part of this? Then that's the person that we really want to connect with. The others, we just want to fulfill whatever experience they want.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I've asked this question of a lot of different organizations, a lot of different groups all around the country. And, usually the answer is funding or volunteer participation. But it sounds like you're going beyond that and kind of looking at the root, which is to say, how do we connect with people and help them understand our mission and how they can be a part of it? And then once you have that, then it seems like the volunteering, the funding, and all that stuff will flow from that. And so, yeah, communication seems that's the perfect answer.
Thank you.
So what's next for MORE in 2023 and beyond?
Well, it's always about finding that next manager, that next volunteer, that next leader, that next person to further your vision. I could easily say it's a numbers game. It's growth. It's, funding. It's members. Whatever. But really, it's about connecting with that next leader who will give additional purpose and support that vision and really enhance that vision and that mission.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really talk about it when we were talking about the organization of MORE, but does MORE have any paid staff? I think I saw you have an executive director. Is that the case?
True. We have one person. It's our executive director. And one thing that we learned over the years is the old Heisman trick, which when I would go in to a specific land manager and she's, oh, hi, how you doing? I haven't seen you for a year. It's like, okay, I'm back. I want to build a pump track right here in DC. You already did an IMBA study up there. It used to be a garden. I would like to put a pump track in there because this community really needs it. I would like an opportunity to connect with the community and have them be responsible for the maintenance of it, to build riding programs. And, we've already been involved in a grant. You are currently holding 15 bicycles for a program, yet you have no programming going on. And at the end of the meeting, it's like, oh, okay, nice to see you. And, a year later, if we're lucky, the same leadership comes back. Well, here is the key. If you have an executive director who's not going away, who can continue to grow those relationships and remind them, it's like, yeah, we haven't talked in a year. It's time to move forward. What's the next step?
Yeah.
How can we meet with the right people? Especially when that same person said, hey, can you resubmit those plans? And it's like, yep, got them right here. This was done in 2014 by IMBA. And this is 2019 and the plans are still here. We just haven't acted on them.
Yeah.
So it's very valuable to have an executive director that will, number one, represent the brand. Number two, can go to meetings that volunteers can't always carve time out of their day to attend. And then number three, can be that backbone for coordinating volunteer activities, including grant applications and event planning and execution of actual events, bring ice, bring water, bring, whatever. Buy the easy ups and, bring the flags and, make sure we have food for volunteers. Those things are very important. And an executive director, if you have one, is key in delivering all those things and making sure that you stay on task. Keep looking to your vision, keep looking to your vision. That director is very important in keeping you to task, keeping you on mission, and making sure that you're executing on the vision for the organization and don't go too far out of bounds.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. Well, Ernie, thank you so much for talking to us about MORE. And thank you to you and all the volunteers that make writing possible and make it fun in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Thank you.
Well, you can get more information about MORE and connect with the group online at more-mtb.org. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes. That's all we've got this week. We'll talk to you again next week.